Let's now set up our basic character. So for our purposes in MF Drawing 1, we'll just be doing a simple character. We're not designing any kind of costume yet. We're just going for the basic form of the character that we're making. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to establish the proportions of the character. And usually when you establish the proportions of a character, those of you who have already or who already know how to draw characters, you might have seen references wherein the reference would specify a certain height based on the number of head measurements. So I'm going to establish here, first I'm going to establish a center line. So this is going to be the height of our character and this is the ground. And I'm essentially going to be dividing this height into 5 equal parts, wherein one part is the head. So this is going to be the head. And we have 5 of these, so our character will be 5 heads high. Now, when you're drawing the actual human figure, references will tell you that the human figure is around 7.5 or 8 heads high. But for our purpose, again, we're doing a simple character, so we're doing 5 heads. Now, I'm going to start off by placing a circle right here to indicate the head. So notice that I'm not going all the way until here because I want to establish that neck. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a line horizontally to establish the shoulder width. Okay, so the shoulder width is a little over the width of the head. And I'm going to also establish the width of the pelvis. So the pelvis is where your leg bones actually start. And then I'm going to bring this down. And I'm just going to add here this shape to indicate the feet. And I'm going to bring this down and put my hands. So what I've done is essentially a stick figure. I'm just going to indicate where those knees and elbows are. So this is our modified stick figure. So if you know how to draw a stick figure, this should be relatively easy. We're just going to be modifying that stick figure to indicate the width of the shoulders and the width of the pelvis. And then we have the center line, and then this is the center of the front of the body. Now, this is essentially very, very generic, okay? You can actually shape this however way you want. You can actually make the width of the shoulders wider than the pelvis, and usually the wider shoulder width is indicative of the male figure. And for the female figure, the shoulder width is going to be a little narrow with the hips or the pelvic area wider than the shoulder. Now, of course, these are just generalities. There will always be like differences based on people are different generally, but when we're talking generic, these are usually the proportions, shoulder and pelvis of the male and female figure. What you can also do is to alter perhaps the height as well. You can do not just a 5 head height, you can go a little taller, or you can like shorten some parts, and that's perfectly fine if you want to vary the body type of the character that you're making. But for our purposes, again, we will be sticking with this 5 head figure. All of this will be coming in when you get to MF Drawing 2, wherein you will be actually designing that character. The next thing that we need to take note of is what this character will look like from the side view. So the side view of this character is pretty much simple because the character is standing straight. So I'm just doing some reference lines just to make sure that the proportions are the same over here. And since this person is standing straight, I'm just going to replicate that and go down. Straight body, just indicate a length right here for the feet. This is where the shoulders are going to be, and they go straight down. And the hand will be here. So you have the elbows right here and the knees right here. So we don't really see the body because it's being covered essentially by the arms and the legs. Now, in some references, if you want the character to be more relaxed, right now his arm is very straight. If you want it to be a little more relaxed, then the arm goes essentially like this. This is a more relaxed pose for the arm when they're standing straight. And you can check it out for yourself. When you stand straight, your arms don't really go down vertically. They kind of like relax and bend over here and move out towards the front. So now that we have the front view, and this could also be the back view, and we have the side view, let's now convert this character turnaround, as we would call it, into an isometric or axonometric view. And to do that is pretty simple. What you would want to do is, let's establish that center line. And then I am now going to establish an X for the axis. What does that mean? I'm just going to do a X here, and this will indicate the width, and this will indicate the depth essentially, and this is the height. So I want my character, for instance, to be facing in this direction. So I'm going to use the axis now as a basis for the shoulder and the pelvic area, the width of the pelvic area. So I'm just going to divide this into 5. 1, 2, 3, roughly 4, 5. Then I'm going to do the head, which is right here. And I'm going to use the axis to establish now that same width or that same direction for the shoulders and for that pelvic area. Then I'm just going to estimate that shoulders and as well as the pelvic area. Now take note that the width of my shoulders is about the size of the head. Here it's wider, and the reason for that is when you turn anything towards an angle, like in this case, it visually becomes shorter, and you can always test it out. Like, for example, if I take my pencil right here, right now it is horizontal and it's that width. When I turn it in this way, to your view, it actually looks like it's getting shorter. And this is the side, and I turn it this way, it gets shorter, and therefore that's why this would be shorter. So given that, I can now, this is the center of the body, I'm going to bring this down straight away. Arms would be more towards the side, it angles right here, it doesn't go straight down that way, and I'll place my hand right here. For the feet, I'm going to follow this axis and just place some basic foot right there. And take note, even this length of the foot follows that axis as well. If you want that angle right there, it's just a matter of moving it a bit towards the back, moving it towards the front, and there you go. So this is now our stick figure in isometric view. And like any other figure or form that you create in 3D, once you know how to construct it in one direction, then you can construct it in another direction. So I'm going to do that again, but this time right here we can see that the figure is facing this way. I'm going to do the same thing with the character facing this way, but this time I'm going to be drawing the figure wherein we're looking at the figure from the bottom looking up. Okay, so what does that mean? I'm going to divide this into 5. Place the head, axes for the shoulders, pelvic area, and then I'm going to do this straight down, or at least angled in this way. So when you're doing this, make sure that even the wrists have to be aligned. You don't want one arm to be shorter than the other. And then I'm going to bring this down over here to this, and I'm going to put my feet right there. So technically here, this is the bottom of the feet. It looks like right now, it still can look like the figure is pointing this way. I mean, like this is the front, but this is actually the back, because I'm establishing that the bottom of those feet can actually be seen. So I'm just going to put a pad right here of the feet and bring that up. And if you want to solidify this even further, if this figure is looking this way, then I'm going to place my eyes right there and the mouth. And this figure is going this way. We don't really see those eyes and that mouth, maybe just a bit of the smirk corner of the mouth right there. Now, what if I want to do this in a not so typical angle? For instance, if, for example, I'm going to be placing my figure in a box. So in this case, the box would look like this. For instance, and for the side view, it would just be a thinner box. For this figure, it's going to be like that. And for this figure, it's going to be like this, wherein this is the bottom, and therefore we see those underneath the feet that way. Okay, so like any other object or any other form or any other compound volume, the human figure can be actually constructed from a box. You can actually do that by starting with a box, but this is another way to do it. Hopefully it makes things a little simpler. Now, why am I doing this box thing? Because if I do, let's say I want to try another option wherein I'm really going to go for a more top angle. If I'm going to go for a more top angle, so I'm going to divide this. If this is like the side and this is the front facing this way or facing this way, what's going to happen is I'm going to divide this again into 5, 3, 4, 5. This is now the line where the head's going to be, and it's not going to be sitting on top right here. It's going to be a little more here because it attaches underneath that sphere. So the head should actually overlap the shoulders in this view when you look at the figure from the top. So this now continues down. This is the pelvis area. Shoulder area. Hands going down. And the feet go down to the bottom, and the feet goes this way. So I'm just going to darken that up a bit so that it will be a little clearer. Head. Head overlaps the shoulders. Body, pelvis area, and we see the top of the feet. So you can actually draw this human figure, this basic human figure, in any way you want, as long as you're familiar or you understand the construction. Then you can actually like draw this figure in another angle based on the box that you create. Here in this part, let's try to pose the character and see how we can draw that character in a pose in isometric or axonometric view. I'm going to start off with, again, the front view of the character. But what I want to do is to make his arms go up. So I'm using just the he pronoun here just to make things simpler. And I'm just going to raise those hands up. And then from the side, what I'm going to do is, instead of the spine going straight up, I'm just going to bend him this way. And the arms are still going up. So he's like reaching up. So this is the front view and this is the side view. So now how do we convert that into an axonometric or isometric view? So we'll do the same process. We will do first that reference line, that center line. Then we can do the axes. You can do the axis at the bottom, at the top, in the center, doesn't matter, as long as you know how to work with it. So for the body, I'm going to establish that the figure is facing this way. And this is going to be the reference for the shoulders and the hips. So 5, heads tall. Of course, because the figure is leaning towards back, the head will not be here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to estimate how far back that goes. You can eyeball that, how far this goes. Or if I'm going to be a little more precise here, I'm just going to use this as a reference, this width as a reference. And try to find that proportion right here. So this looks like the proportion that I need. And this curve ends here at the pelvis. So this part is down, but the body goes this way. And then the head will go here. So it's important to note that in this view, the neck actually connects to the bottom of that sphere. We actually see the bottom of that sphere based on the angle that we're using. So that's why I extended this line over here to indicate that this is the bottom of the head. Shoulders. This is now our axis that we're following. So I'm just going to bring that down over here. Make a reference of that curve towards the pelvis. Line that up. And since this goes straight down, we just go straight down. At the feet, following this axis, and then that axis right there. So now we have the bottom part of the body. I'm just going to X those knees. And then the arms go straight up. Elbow up. Hand. Elbow up. Follow that. Boom. And we have our figure in isometric view following our orthographic diagram. Let's now try another view, but this time let us make the character bend forward. So I'm going to make the character bend forward this way, and I'm just going to have the arms bring it down. So our character had a bad day. So given that, we'll do the same process. I'm just going to do another direction. Center line. Character is facing this way. Find that width from the center along here, because the character is supposed to be in this direction. Around maybe there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's bending down forward. Oops, I'm sorry. It's supposed to be here on the other side because it's bending forward. This is where the leg is supposed to be. So I'm just going to bend that there. Head. So now I'm overlapping the head over the neck, because from this view, the neck or the head is supposed to cover a bit of those shoulders. If you try this pose on your own, you will see that your head actually covers this part of your body. So this is the width of the shoulders. Bring it down, following that curve. Legs going down. Feet. And the arms essentially go straight down. So what that looks like, if I erase all of the other lines, we have our character that goes that way. So at this point, let's try to do something a little more complex. So here I have two figures, which are essentially the same human figure. And from the front, we see that one leg is raised. You have the knee right here, and you have the arms going this way at an angle. When we look at the figure from the side, this is how high the knee is, and it's supposed to align there orthographically. And the arms are not straight up, but they are at an angle moving forward. So let's see how we can construct that in isometric or axonometric view. So again, we'll start with center line. I'm going to establish those axes. And I want the figure to be facing this way. Divide that into 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'll establish the head, since the head is along the center line. Then, since our shoulders and our pelvis area are straight, we follow this axis, going this way and this way. So they're about this width. The leg, pretty simple, just go straight down and then indicate the knee. And now, what of this knee over here, this raised knee? To be able to find that, we need to see how high that is compared to the rest of the figure. So you can see here that the height of that knee is about half of the torso. So if that's half of the torso right here, I'm just going to move this forward. So this is the height. Following this axis, that's the height. This is where the knee is supposed to be. But since this is towards the side, it's not here. It's towards the side, so I'm just going to make a reference line going this way. You see that? Again, I'm not going to place the knee here because this is aligned with the center line. I need it to be aligned here with the shoulder. So this is the reference I'm using for the shoulder, and I'm just going to use axes to project that. And then I'm just going to estimate now that angle going here. And the other leg, the lower leg, goes forward, goes down, foot right there, following this direction as well. And then for the arms, we're not going straight up. We're going towards the side a bit. So this is the side, laterally. But it has to go forward as well. So now, this is now where eyeballing comes in. I'm going to, you can eyeball this or you can go again with the axes. This is straight up. So this is the level. I'm going to follow that axis. This is where the arm is supposed to go when it is straight up. But since we're moving forward, then I would have to move a bit forward, following this direction. Boom, boom. Just a little bit right there. And that's where the arm, this distance, that's where that arm is going to be. And there you go. So I'm going to repeat that. This time I'm going to go for the other direction. I want now my figure to face this way. Center line, divide this into 5 heads, 3, 4, 5. Head is right here. Axis of the shoulders, axis of the pelvis, this leg goes straight down, follow that line for the direction of the foot, and again let's go to the knee. Again, the knee height goes until the middle of the torso, so that's until here. So that height, if I extend that height, I'm going to follow this axis going here. So this is the height. But that's not where the knee is going to be. The knee is supposed to start from here, and therefore I need to find that height. I'll extend this up. That's the height. Move that forward. And then estimate that distance. That's around here. And that's where the knee is going to go. Bring that down. Direction of the foot. And there you have that. Just to make it clearer, I'm just going to erase this center line so that you can see that that is where the leg is supposed to go. For the arms, again, we're not going up, but I'm going to use this as a reference line. I'm just going to move that, estimate that distance along the axis, this axis, shoulder axis right there. And I'm going to estimate that's until here and that's until here. However, it's not going straight up. This is straight up. We need to bring it forward. And therefore, I'm now going to estimate that distance using this axis again. Bring that forward by the same distance. And this is now where those arms are going to go. So you'll notice that this arm it looks shorter than this, but because we're working with 3D, depending on the angle, these things happen. As long as your construction is correct, then it doesn't matter. That's how it's supposed to go. So I'm just going to darken this again. Up, and now we have that figure right there facing this direction. Now, another thing you might notice is that all these four figures appear to be on the same space because their axes are generally in the same angles. So, like what you did in the park scene assignment, you can place human figures in your park scene as long as you're also following the ground plane.